was. Son of a bitch right there. All right, guys. So this one, that one got hung up in some vines, really thick vines around this tree. Whew, I had to cut it like 3 times to take enough out of it so that it could rip through those vines. I was looking to put it down up here a little bit higher, but my final cut, I had to notch it out and get it to drop farther down just to pull against those vines. This one is actually quite a bit bigger diameter, and it's leaning directly at you. So if you get smacked in the jib, it means I was unsuccessful, because I'm going to notch it and try to have it come down here uphill more. It'll be easier for me to pull out of here and deal with than get on this slope. This is a problem, getting on this slope, because it's so steep. But that one's light enough, and I'll be able to winch it up with the new winch. But the rest of these I would like to try to drop that way. All right. Yeah, that was pretty good, huh? Dropped it right where I wanted it. Started to, I don't know if you could tell from your angle, started to try to come down a little bit this way. So when I was making that cut, so you've got the tree, you've got the notch in the direction you want it to fall. But then as it's actually falling, you know, the weight is counteracting, the wind is counteracting, those sorts of things. They're all trying to pull it in different directions, but you've got this weak spot where the notch is. So what happens is, if you want it to go to the right, you know, you cut this left side to the notch, and that way now that's freed up, see? And so when the tree is trying to lean, it's pulling against wood on the one side. Now that this is freed up, it starts to rotate the other way, and that's what happened. That's what happened there. So you can sort of guide it as you see it, you know. You just watch the top, and then as it starts to go, you see sort of where it wants to go, and as you manipulate that cut, you can kind of help it go in the way you want. That's a theory anyway. It seems to work. I mean, I've been able to do it pretty successfully, and that was one of them. It was gonna come right here instead of there, but I just came around and opened that up, and now, as it was, you know, if it wanted to come this way, it was pulling against wood, so it couldn't, so it just sort of rotated like that, because this side was now cut. All right, we're gonna just, the one next to it isn't quite as thick. Try to drop it basically right next to it or on top of that. Then we've got the back side. They're gonna be, again, a little bit more complicated, because I want them to come this way, even though the limbs obviously are all growing, and so the weight is going down the hill. It's got a nice big notch on it, and it is cut all the way through. And I think the combination of the weight and the vines is, it didn't move at all. It's just standing there perfectly straight, but it is completely cut. And I think the weight wants to go back. So this is where you need the wedges. I'm sure a couple smacks with a wedge and it'll come this way. All right, go put this wedge in. It's sitting back so hard, even with that sledge, I can't get it in, so I gotta open up that notch some more. Newton would have told us that you can't fight gravity. I told you that thing was hanging, was leaning back hard. And I just opened that notch up more than halfway through the tree, hoping that I could force that thing. And then when I went to open up that back cut a little bit, just opening up that back cut, that little bit, it started falling. Wanted to go that way really bad, as you can see. Now this one is doing the same thing. I don't think you can, maybe you can see it. It's hung my saw up there. I've got a big notch on it too, and it's a lot lighter, and you can see the weight is actually going this way. You know what I think it is? I think it's the vines. The vines are coming up the hill, and I think what's happened is that the vines are of course wrapped all around the big trunk of the tree, as they were the rest of this, but that's obviously wrapped. You can see the vines up the tree. That's obviously wrapped around this, and so now that the big one's down that direction, the vines are trying to pull it down the hill, even though all the weight is actually going forward. So that's why I'm getting a pinch bar on the back cut on the downward side of the hill, even though this certainly should have just dropped just like that. Frankly, as much as it's leaning this way, wouldn't even have needed a notch, because that's where I want it to go. I could have just cut right through it and it should have fallen, but it's the vines. I don't know if you could hear it, but so I tried to put that wedge in there, and the gap was already too far open for the wedge to really do anything. So I had obviously been sawing, and I told you I was really close. I literally just shoved that saw in there in the gap. Just like I hadn't started to saw yet. I just shoved it in there, and it obviously broke, you know, the one piece of straw that broke the camel's back. When it did, it was just pop. That's that little fiber. Like I said, it wasn't even sawing. I just shoved it in there. Just that pop. But I was worried about the kickback, you know. You can see it. It actually went in a good place. The fought it hard enough that it took almost the middle ground. I had the notch going further up the hill. The vines had it pulling that way, and it pretty much went straight across. Now I just need to, maybe I'll just push the pickup truck to there and throw that winch on the back of it, and I can pull this stuff, get this stuff up out of the way before I try to handle that big log. And then well, I mean, it's fun, you know, and we had pretty good success. I've dropped these exactly where I wanted it. I pretty much put that one where it had to go. No success with the big one, but even with that one, given the vines and stuff, dropped it pretty much exactly where it needed to be.